Nice. Okay, now I'm going to try and get recorded to Facebook real quick. While you guys like maybe give the rules and stuff while we're getting this going. Let's see. All right, continue. My goodness. Okay, let's see. Share on my page. All right, let's give it a shot, see if it goes. See what we got. Oh, 106. Somebody's got a hot temperature going on. All right, are we going? Did we make it? I think we made it. Yeah?
I think you are live streaming and you are recording. Look at that. That's why we brought you here.
That's right. Look at us getting it done. All right. All right. We are good to go, Corey. So whenever you want to get it going.
Well, I think, well, I hope everybody got a chance to take the personality test for the first time, but welcome to our fireside. We have Julie, right? Julie Caldwell. She is an expert in personality tests, like the coaching. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm not an expert, but so I am certified in the Myers. So I work in human resources. So I do a lot of coaching and career counseling. And one of the things that I'm certified in is the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator personality test, which is a pretty common one. And I've just seen through all of the, not all, but on dating profiles and sometimes on the Facebook chats, people will put their little 4-letter initials. And every once in a while, someone will pop up and say, what in the heck? What are those letters? So I'm here to answer questions and certainly not an expert. Actually love to just learn what everybody thinks of it too. So that's me.
Well, good. We'd like to welcome everybody to this interesting podcast with Julie. Hopefully we'll get some insights into personalities. I know this is a fascinating topic because, we're all flameless, right? We're all in this group because, we're looking for somebody. And sometimes a personality test is might be an interesting way to go. I think eHarmony does like a personality test, don't they? I don't know which one they use, but apparently they ask a lot of questions and they try to link people up with their personality test numbers. And, so that's kind of the thing now. So, but again, welcome to our podcast on Sunday. If you like our podcast, you like our group, go to our Facebook page and like us. And if you also want to go check us out on YouTube, you could go to YouTube, our YouTube site, our channel, and subscribe and then hit the bell. The bell will give you alerts when we upload new videos. And we have a lot of archived videos from the past that you might want to go check out. We try to cover a lot of unique topics, different topics about different things. But I think tonight's topic is going to be very interesting. Hopefully people will come back to the website and check it out. But again, Julie, welcome.
Thank you.
All right, so tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, where are you from? Did you grow up in the church? Are you a convert?
Yeah, so I'm pretty traditional. I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah. Did a little small stint in Casper, Wyoming, which is at the time was the largest city in Wyoming. But yeah, I was born in the church. I live in the Sugar House area now. I have 2 kids, cute kids, age 14 and 8, or actually 9, and been divorced about 4 years. And like I mentioned in my earlier intro, I have worked in human resources for about 20 years, and I love it. I feel like I'm really blessed. I have a great job and get to work with people and make people's lives better, which I love. So but in a corporate setting. So I want a disclaimer here, like I'm not a relationship guru. I mean, if I were, I'd probably be married, right? But I just, there's so many correlations between just any sort of self-development, whether it be in the church and or in the corporate world, or personal self-development. There's just a lot of correlating things. I think that there's a lot of great sources to get better. And when you work on yourself and really understand yourself, I think that ultimately makes you a better partner. And looking back, I look at some of my other my old relationships, and there's some things, you always learn in hindsight. Hindsight's 2020, but there's a lot of things to apply and learn from the past too. So
I agree. I think that if we're not constantly growing and learning and trying to become a better person, then we're like stagnant, right? And so no one wants to do that. Like, I think as we're all trying to search for that perfect someone for our lives, that we need to kind of be our best self, or as good as we can be in the moment to find them. So yeah, I totally agree with that. Did you happen to serve a mission for the church?
I did not serve a mission. So that's part of my story. So I got married very young. I got married when I was 19. And that's part of my journey too, is I think I'm not a proponent of getting married young. I just think you have to know yourself, and the more life experience you can have, you're going to have more success, right? And I got married very young. I was still learning how to be an adult, pretty naive in a lot of ways. And so I did not serve a mission, but I'd love to someday.
I just had that conversation with my daughter, actually just today. She's like, why is it that I feel like in young women's, they really pushed us to go to BYU to find a husband and to get married? And I told her, I was like, you know what? I would never tell you to do that. And I got married at 22, and I still felt very immature, and I just lacked experiences in the world to be able to be a better partner for my ex-husband. And at the time, I just told her, I said, look, I just don't think that it's wise to marry young. Go find out what you want to do and who you are. This is your time to really grow and develop. So yeah, I'm glad that you said that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's hard I don't want to paint a broad stroke, right? I mean, everybody kind of has to make their own choices. But in hindsight, I think had I had a little more life and understanding under my belt, things would have been a little easier for me. So
yeah, and experiences too. Same. If I would have had a little bit deeper experiences and understanding, I would have grasped the idea that I don't think he's for me.
Right. I think that at that age, so I got married right as I turned 22. And I think at that, I didn't even really know myself well enough to know who would be best for me. Right. So I think there is, especially nowadays, like our youth seem to be younger. I don't know if that's what y'all think, but it seems like, teenagers back 100 years ago were so much more mature and able to do things. Yeah. Our teenagers seem to be like really muted and just kind of held down. They just aren't ready for that type of thing. And so I think that the church shares that view a lot. Let me rephrase that. I think that it's taught from leaders in the church, not the church leaders, but within the wards. Because it's a culture. I think it's like, I'm going to kind of say this at every moment: get married, go get a husband, return, because they're fearful of people having sex out of marriage, first of all. And they're secondly, I think they're just fearful that if I don't say temple marriage 25,000 times before this child gets out of the youth program, they may not choose a temple marriage. So I think it's kind of all fear-based, but I do at my house, I'm very open. I've got a 20-year-old. I'm like, Hannah, wait a while, you're good. So just wait a while.
Yeah, it's hard to find that balance. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say I was gonna agree with like Celeste, because you do see a big difference in the youth today, and I don't want, sometimes I struggle with that, because I worry that as I'm getting older, am I turning into that old guy that's like, oh, the youth of today, and it's like, because they yelled at me when they all thought I was an idiot, and I'm sure my dad thought I was an idiot. My grandpa thought I was a bigger idiot. So, each generation was kind of like, man, I was off storming Normandy at 18, and this guy's in the basement playing video games. And he has no idea what he's going to do with his life, but I was storming Normandy, you know?
I think there's validity to the fact, like, they just really don't need to grow up any quicker. Like, their lives are kind of bougie. Like, they don't really have to worry about, hey, I'm heading to war, or, hey, I've got to go, plow the fields so that my family can eat. Like, that's just not something that they have to deal with. So I think that
there's less conflict, I think, nowadays. Our kids grew up with way less conflict. I mean, you go back to like the 80s through the 90s through the 2000s, there's just not a lot of conflict. I mean, in the United States, like there were conflicts elsewhere, but they weren't big enough to threaten the homeland. And so, people are growing up and life is easy and there's just no struggle, and the kids were just growing up with no struggle. And unfortunately, there was that doctrine of like, we can't harm our children by giving one team a trophy and letting the others go home crying because they didn't get a trophy. And then we have to give them all a trophy, and we have to give them all ribbons, and they all have, we can't keep score. Everybody just kicks soccer balls in the net, but we can't keep score, right? And I think the kids are growing up just going like, where's the challenge? And when they do get married, holy crap, there's a lot of challenge right there, right off the bat. Like, hey, you left the toothpaste cap off, you left the toilet seat up, and the kid's going, wait a minute, I thought we're supposed to get married and have a good time. What's all this stress?
Hey, I was told if I made it to the temple that we were like together forever, eternally, and happily, blissfully happy.
Done.
Yeah. All right, Julie, what other good tidbits about yourself you're going to share with us?
Let's think. I love to travel. I'm hoping, really, really hoping. I have a tickets booked to Europe in about 2 weeks, but they haven't opened up. I'm going to England, but they haven't opened it up yet. So I may be canceling that trip and staying home. So if anyone has any good alternative travel tips for me, but I love to travel. I love to read. I love to learn. Like, that's what's so fun about this stuff, and being able to discuss. That's pretty energizing to me, which is true to my Myers-Briggs type, which we can talk about. So,
yep. So I wish I was going to England. That would be cool.
I wish I was too. I don't think it's going to happen. They call it, anyway, I don't know if, is this an international podcast? I don't know.
Yeah,
some people get on here from other places. Yeah.
Do they? That's cool.
We've had Canada and England.
Have you really?
Ireland, maybe? No, Scotland, maybe. I don't remember. We've had a few. Yes. Every now and then they pop in.
My sister currently lives there, and they call it, instead of being like vaccinated, they call it jabbed. So if you've been fully jabbed, then they'll let you in, but you still quarantine. Yeah, it's called a jab.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway.
Awesome. So you said you like to read. What kind is your favorite type of books? What are your favorite?
I love biographies. Again, I just think there's like super cool, well, in history too. So I'm reading, have you ever heard of the book, The Splendid and the Vile? It's about Winston Churchill during the World War II. It is awesome. It's a great book. So I'm reading that right now. Again, just lots to learn, lots to understand. And you know what's funny too about this personality stuff, and there's a bazillion personality tests, like kind of has been alluded to, but and none of them are, I mean, you can take them all too seriously, right? But they're all different tools to better understand ourselves. But I find myself reading these books about people in history, and I'm like trying to figure out their personality type, right? Like that's part of my, even people I meet, I'm like, I wonder what that's an indication of. So I'm like this closet psychologist, I think.
That's awesome. Well, maybe you should go to school to do that type of line of work, especially if you've got the interest for it. So
yeah, I could do that. Yep.
That's awesome.
So you said
So
you
what?
work in,
Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
You said you work in human resources and you work for corporate. Is that correct?
Uh-huh.
Are you able to say which business or company you work for, or?
Sure, I'll put it in there. So I work at Jacobson Construction, and we're Salt Lake City, Utah, a general contractor. yeah, and I did learning and development for about 15 years. I've been there almost 20 years, so a long time.
That's a long time.
Yeah, and currently I'm the vice president of human resources. I get to lead a little bit of everything, which I love. So, but my heart's still kind of in the learning and development angle of things.
Yeah. So what's your favorite part of your job? I know you said learning and development, but what's your favorite part of your job?
I guess the people side of things. A lot of people have kind of a funny perception of human resources. You're either like the compliance people, like to follow all the rules and regulations, or you're the warm fuzzy people who make everybody feel good and happy. I guess I'm probably more on the people side of things. So I love just feel like I'm kind of the mom a little bit. I just think it's so important that people feel like we spend so much time at work that we feel it's a good place to be, that we're engaged and we're happy to be there. And it's an environment we want to be, especially right now with the labor market the way it is. It's hard to keep people and it's hard to get people. So that's a big part of my job, is just making the workplace attractive. So
right. It is very hard. I noticed that in my career as well, that it seems that it's really hard to keep people and keep them engaged in work and keep them enjoying work.
Yeah, people have a lot of choices, so you got to keep them in the game.
Yeah.
All right.
So
Go ahead, Corey.
let's get to our topic, because I think this is going to be an all-night topic. I think Julie's great, but let's get to the topic at hand. So, what's your personality type, Julie?
Okay, so I don't want to say it right up front. I'm going to say it a little bit later, but you guys tell me. So I can give you again, Myers-Briggs is kind of my thing, but I can kind of give you an overview of that and tell you how that relates to other personality tests. I can get into detail with that. What's the interest level? It's kind of funny because normally, like if I were to do this in a corporate setting, everyone would have taken the test, which Celeste, thank you so much for sending that link.
I tried. We'll see.
Well, I know. And so there's people that probably, I don't really know, people that have no idea what this is, people that have taken the test, people that have done something in between. So I don't know how to meet, I don't know. What do you think is the best place to start?
Well,
Why don't you just give us like an analyzing of what we are?
and also explain what Myers-Briggs is, because I don't know if
Yes.
people know what that is specifically. Explain what it is that you are certified in, and then try to analyze us. That'd be fun.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll try. So I'll go like broad and then we'll narrow in. So Myers-Briggs, it's like the 88% of Fortune 500 companies use this, and they usually use it for like a leadership development program. So, helping people understand their strengths and their weaknesses so they can be better leaders. Well, same goes for, I think, relationships, right? Not only like understanding yourself to get in a relationship, but once you're in one, you're not going to be the same type as your partner. And there's going to be inevitable conflicts and negotiations and sometimes deal breakers. And so understanding all of that's really, really helpful. Myers-Briggs is only one of a million personality tests. This one is probably one of the oldest. So it came out of a Swiss psychologist, Carl Jung. Carl Jung was his name. And he wrote a book called Psychological Types in 1921. And then it kind of picked up a cult following with this mom and daughter in the 40s with the last name Myers and Briggs. And they actually they did all this research on it. And so it turned it into a business. And it's what should I say? I mean, it's it's translated into 20 languages. I mean, it's worldwide. It's kind of the big one, right? The big monster one. There's another one similar to that called the something 5. I can't remember, but they've done a ton of research on it. It's valid and reliable. I will say this. So you do have to be certified with Myers-Briggs, but there are a ton of, and it costs like $50 to take the test online. And then someone like me can debrief it with you. But there's a whole bunch of internet tests, like the one you sent, the 16 personalities. And in looking at that, it looks almost identical to the Myers-Briggs. So I can't say what's different or not, but we can probably assume it's the same thing.
I assumed it was the same thing. So I thought I chose a link that was a Myers-Briggs. So hopefully I did.
Yeah, the only difference is Myers-Briggs, has some sort of intellectual property on it, and they charge money. So I don't know.
This is like the free Myers-Briggs option.
Yeah, just to give you a quick little overview, kind of like, are you an extrovert, introvert, that kind of stuff. So
I'm gonna see if I can
strengths and weaknesses.
I'll post the link in there. So hold on.
Yeah.
So I took the test.
Okay.
Don't tell her what you
What-
are. She's trying to figure it out.
The free, I took the free one online, the one that we put on we posted on the website, on the Facebook post. But so I'm a protagonist.
Okay. That's not this test. See, okay, keep talking.
Oh, you don't know what test it took?
Well, she goes off of the letters. That's the thing.
Oh, okay. I am an ENFJ-A.
Okay. She was supposed to like guess that, but
I'm gonna
Oh,
run that
sorry.
down.
I didn't know what the question was. Sorry. I thought you said she only speaks letters. I'm like, okay, I'll give some letters.
So here's a marked difference though. And you know what? What would be fun is I could explain what each of the letters mean. And Corey, you guys can say if you think that's true or not too.
Sure.
But so the Myers-Briggs is the 4-letter type. So there's actually there's 16 different combinations. The hyphen part, the A, did you say yours was A?
Yeah, A.
That is not part of the core Myers-Briggs. So I'm not going to address that. I think that's probably an add-on for whatever that is. So I'm not well versed in that. So you could probably tell us from what it tells you what that means. But so we could stick to the four letters. Do you guys just want to tell me what you all are?
well, it looks as if me and Terry are the same. We're both ENFJs. So.
But we are not the same person.
But we are not. I know people sometimes get us confused, but we're not the same
I
person.
don't know. I think it's a blonde thing.
We're both ENFJs. Now, in the test we took as A, which is an advocate, it kind of separates the ENFJ into two different kind of.
No, I'm an INFJ.
Oh, you put ENFJ in here
In
in the beginning, but that's okay. That's all right. You're more.
That must be a typo.
No,
because
no, you're right. It's an INFJ. No.
Yeah, I'm the
Yeah,
ENFJ.
you're the ENFJ. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So you're both INFJs. He is an ENFJ.
Yeah.
So you're all okay. That's super interesting because so one thing that the test will say is people go to they kind of choose different careers based on their type. So I'm curious what you guys do for your careers.
All right, Terry.
Guess mine.
Well, you're probably in some sort of human. Are you going to
Human interaction.
He
Yeah.
does
Huh. I'm in dental. Yeah.
Okay. So like a service, like a
caretaker of.
healthcare. Yeah. Okay.
Celeste?
Oh, I am a professional mother,
Oh, that's like the ultimate right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
but I'm totally interested in like becoming a therapist, or I would absolutely love to be an author. I love to write, but right now I don't have a career besides being a mom. So, but I've done accounting. I've done some other things prior to motherhood, but
The thing about being a mom is you have to be good at everything. So you pretty much can go in.
Oh, yeah. You gotta be a master of everything.
Well-rounded, huh?
Yes, very. Corey, you're an extrovert, I can tell.
I am a FBI special agent.
Oh, okay. Are you like forward facing or like secret agent?
No, I'm special. I'm not secret.
Okay.
He's a special.
I always joke with people because my title is special agent, and they always say, "Is that secret?" I'm like, "No, that's the secret agent side. No, I'm not that kind.
I'm the special agent.
His part is really short.
I'm special."
You are. I'll attest to that.
I'll tell you what I am. So we're all pretty similar. I'm an ENFP. So that last letter is a little different from all of you. So do you want me to do like the elevator pitch of what all these letters mean? What do you think?
Sure.
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 So there are, and this can get really complicated. So like if we were, there's 16 different possibilities if you mix all these 4 letters up, right? And then if you really wanted to get serious, and we would never do this during this, but there's actually like, in addition, 20 different facet types. So you might be, so the first letter is extrovert, introvert. So if we've got extrovert here and introvert here, it's kind of a sliding scale. People prefer one side or the other. If we wanted to go crazy, there's 20 facets for E and 20 facets for I.
Yeah, let's not go crazy.
We're not gonna go crazy, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying like you can really like get brainy and academic. We won't do that. But anyway, the E and the I are basically, it's all about preferences. So it's not about how smart you are or how emotionally intelligent you are. It's just given like your natural self where you prefer. So this is where you get your energy. You are kind of an E would be, I get my energy from this kind of stuff, talking to people, collaborating, external. And an I would be, I'm more introspective. I get my energy from downtime and thinking and processing in here.
And
Yeah.
some people think that extrovert and introvert is a personality. Like if I'm outgoing, I'm an extrovert, and if I'm not, then I'm introvert. But that isn't the case. I think I'm glad you're clarifying that. It's more of where you
Yeah.
get your energy.
It's where you
Because
get
I'm
your
right in the
energy.
middle.
Yeah.
of both.
So here's the other thing too. Like I'm an E, but that doesn't mean I can be an I sometimes. It's like writing with my left hand, even though I'm right-handed. I can do it. I'm just not as natural or comfortable with it. So we're not just always one or the other. Depending on the situation, we might go like this, but we have a preference. Okay. And Tara, you might be right on the line or like slightly left of center.
I am. I just looked it up. It's like I'm 59% introverted and 41% extroverted. So it's close enough.
And I'll tell you, like, so since this is about relationships, my ex-husband I'm an extrovert, but he was an extreme extrovert. And even though we were both extroverts, that sometimes still caused some conflict, right? So
You were competing.
we were competing, and the party never stopped with him. And sometimes I needed to be a little introverted, right? So anyway, you can see the other thing with that particular one is you have to be really careful of biases, I think, especially in the dating world. I don't know, this is worth discussing probably, but do extroverts get all the dates? I don't know. The introverts, it's hard to get out there. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, like I'm introverted and I had many date options. I think I can still be outgoing, but I don't need to be out doing things with groups of people to feel like I am being fulfilled. Like I can putter around my house, read my books, write in my journal, and I'm a-okay. But I love to get out and do things. So I think if you have an outgoing personality more so than like being more shy or laid back, maybe, I don't know. But I'm definitely an introvert. So I don't know.
I just
Good
don't see
question, though.
Celeste like, going up to a guy out in public and go, you know what, you look very interesting. And I just want to
No.
come over and say hi. You're like, oh, no way.
Wouldn't do that. You probably couldn't pay me enough to do that, but
No.
no.
So
Or you walk up to somebody, I say, I like your car. That's a great car. You're like, no, I wouldn't do that.
No, me? No, nope. Wouldn't do it. Nope.
So I think one thing though is like with all of these, none of these are good or bad, right? Like, and we have to be careful because sometimes we think the extroverts are the fun ones or and that's not always the case. Introverts are awesome. And I think a human tendency is to think whatever your type is the best type. And that we have to be careful of that too, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, extrovert, introvert, that's a really easy one. Everybody gets that one, right? So
Yep.
the next one in the 2 options is the way we take in information. So when things come at us, the way we process it. So the choices here, you're either an S or an N. And an S is someone that you can think of it as sensing. So they rely on the five senses. Very, if I see it, I believe it. If I can taste it, hear it, smell it, touch it, whatever, it's truth to me. An N, and the reason why it stands for intuition, but they use N because I was already used with introvert. So an intuitor is like the person that has a sixth sense. So this is the person that thinks bigger, like, yeah, I can see it, taste it, whatever, but there's more to it there, right? There's more to the story, and they read in a little bit more. So like a perfect example of like a sensor and a intuitor is if you met someone on the street and after asked your friend, like, so what'd you notice about that person? The sensor will say that person had brown hair, was wearing a blue shirt, will be very flat factual, right? The intuitor will say, I noticed they have a flag pin on their lapel, and I wonder if they're a veteran or if they have someone that served in the military that they love. They'll go beyond the facts, the bigger picture. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so you guys are all N's, I remember, aren't you?
Yeah, I have an
All
N.
N's.
Yep,
Would you agree that that's kind of how you take in information?
absolutely. At least,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I notice the small details about people
Mhm.
done, and I just make it away.
Yeah, so N's tend to be a little more creative. But like in a relationship, you've got an S or an N. You may be trying to talk about something and you're not even like talking, someone's seeing it this way, it's perspective, right? And so sometimes that can create some, we'll call it chances to negotiate, really. So, okay, that's S and N. The third letter is I'll review. The way we get our energy again is the I or the extrovert, introvert. The way we process information is sensing or intuition. The third letter options are T for thinking and F for feeling. So once we've got this information in our head, how are we processing it and making decisions about it? So a thinker would be based on experience, logic, what makes sense. A feeler is going to be more about the emotional side. So here's a perfect story. If there was a little league baseball team that like worked their guts out all season and they won the championship, and one of the sponsors said, I have 2 tickets to the Jazz game. I'm in Utah, I'm a Jazz fan. I have 2 tickets to the Jazz game, lower court. Who deserves these 2 tickets? You guys are all feelers, right?
Yep.
So how would you choose who got the ticket?
I would pick the Jazz fan.
The biggest fan?
Yeah, I would just, whoever was really set on going, I would just naturally give up my ticket for that person.
I would pick the person that would most likely not be able to go to the game, and this was a great opportunity for them to go to the game. So,
He's an opportunist.
well, no, I'm kind of put myself in their shoes. Like, I mean, if somebody's like, oh, I'm a huge fan, I've never been able to go or afford tickets or whatever, I'd be like, you're number one on the list.
Oh, I thought you were saying you were going to pick the person who couldn't go so you could take their ticket.
No. I meant the most deserving. Like there could be
Got
2
it.
Jazz fans that are equal, but the one Jazz fan's like, oh, I go all the time, but give me the ticket. I'm like, no.
That sounds
guy
better.
What about you, Celeste? How would you choose?
Yeah, I'm kind of here with Corey on this one. I would definitely be feeling for the one that maybe wouldn't have the option otherwise. So
Okay, you all played perfectly to an F. So this is what's so funny is Corey said I would choose the most qualified, but the qualification you chose was like kind of a feeling, not their batting average, not how many games they missed or didn't miss, not how many scores that home runs they had. A thinker would go by metrics, like what is fair, what is logical, right? A feeler is going to go for who deserves it more, who's most deserving. Isn't that interesting? So I've done this a few times, and it's never gone wrong in that scenario. The thinker's always, and probably there's some thinkers on the call here who probably went there like, oh yeah, it's got to be the guy who's got the best scores or the best whatever. It's measurable.
Looks like Scott's a thinker. He put his letters in the chat. So
yeah, and not bad or good. And that's how we make decisions. So like, again, like think about your relationships, like some of the biggest troubles, and I don't mean to make it negative, but like how you spend your money, right? Like the thinkers are going to go one way and the feelers are going to go another. And that's hard. There's natural tension there.
It's interesting you talk about this because, to bring in like gospel doctrine now, we were studying the Doctrine and Covenants last week, and it was talking about mercy and justice, right? And the duality of it, like they're both great virtues, but they also are complete opposites, because you have justice, which is, I think, the thinker, right? It's like, I'm sorry, the law is the law, there's a consequence, blah, 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 blah. And then there's like the mercy side of it that says, but hold on a second. You know what I mean? It's like, and then it was interesting to think that if you can go too far with justice to where it becomes almost totalitarian. You can also go too far with mercy where like anything goes, like grace will have you. You can go out and do all kinds of crazy stuff. And you know what? Mercy's got you. And I think there's a balance there between the two. It's like you're kind of shifting constantly between justice and mercy. But I see what you mean. I can see that in personality types, right? There's like I'm sorry, I have to measure it. It's got to be the rules. And then like somebody like us, we're kind of like, oh no, wait, the kid that never gets to go, he gets to go, right? So,
but I think with money, I would be much more of a thinker and logically.
Yeah, that's where the shifting comes in.
I was gonna say I'm very much that way
when it comes to money. No,
I'm very much that way. It's like my bills get paid, and it's just very like
sure.
Yeah, I don't ever.
That's like me too. I pay my credit cards off every single month. I can't stand to carry a balance. I have things set up on auto pay because I hate forgetting to pay. I'm on travel, I'm overseas, and I'm like, oh, I forgot something to pay because I lost track of time. It's like, nope, everything's set up on auto pay because I never want to miss a payment.
Yep.
So I get a little anal that way.
Yeah. I think my OCD adds to that though, because I have to have everything kind of structured and linear, like my budget books and everything needs to be like all sorts of like.
Oh, I clean my house thoroughly before I take a trip because I hate coming home and finding messes.
The worst. That's the worst.
So people are like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm cleaning my house. They're like, why? You're going out of town. I'm like, that's why. I mean, toilet's got to be clean, shower's got to be clean, floors vacuumed, new clean sheets. So I come home, there's clean sheets to sleep in,
Like that is try cleaning before you go. And then.
Yes, I dropped the dry cleaning off.
Your ex decides to let the kids stay at the house while you're gone. And then you come.
Oh, no, I would never do that. No, my house would be a disaster and I'd be
a bomb is blown up in your house. I'm like, no. Anyway.
So you guys, so that's really funny because you're actually getting right into the last one. Okay. So again, the way we get energy, the way we process information, the way we make decisions is the thinking and feeling. And then the last thing is what we do, like how we act out. That's I can't think of a better word, but the way we like approach the world. And this is the dumbest part of, I think, Myers-Briggs, because their titles are not very good. They call it judging and perceiving. And judging has nothing to do with whether you judge people. It sounds negative, but it's not that. Judging is someone who goes on vacation and changes their sheets and makes sure their sheets, they're clean when they come back. And someone who, their approach is very methodical and organized and planned. And a perceiver on this other end of the spectrum is a fly by the seat of their pants. So they may not even plan their vacation. They're just going to go and, throw caution to the wind and make the best of it. And they're not as planned. So you can be a combo of all these. I mean, none of these are bad or good. They just are. It's what we
It's
prefer.
different.
They're just different.
So what
Um,
about those who want their house totally clean and organized before they leave for their vacation, but have not made plans for vacation? They're just heading out and don't care. What about someone like that? Just kind of like in the middle somewhere, because that's me.
The bed's unmade and like
No,
laundry's
no,
not done.
the
and-
house is totally made and cleaned and perfect for when I come home. But if I'm heading off to Cancun, as long as I got a hotel, that's all that matters. I'm like, all right, as long as I got my hotel, I'll get there and I'll figure it all out when I get there.
Oh yeah.
That's like a great balance, way to be balanced on that, right? Instead of rigid. 'Cause on any of these things, you can be really rigid, and that's hard, right? You don't want to be rigid.
Yeah. I throw caution though. I don't like planning things out. Like I like to just wake up and say, I think today I'll go to the pool, or
Yeah.
I think I'll go for a run and maybe walk down to the park. Like I don't really want to plan things out, because to me, if it doesn't work out, or I get a phone call or something gets distracted, or I got to go into work, then I feel like crap, I had plans and they got
Yeah.
ruined. So I'm more like, hey, whatever happens. Oh crap, work called me in. Oh well, I guess I'll do something tomorrow.
Yeah, that's
that
kind of
just
how I am
limits-
too.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that just limits the frustration, because if you don't have a plan, then it can't get frustrated, right?
It's true. That is true.
So we're all pretty similar. And you know what? It'd be interesting if there were some other people online or, on camera that were opposite, right? Like we could get some good debates going.
Who was Scott was, let's see. I'm looking at I'm going to scroll up now and see who said what.
We got to go to super chats.
Yeah, you guys keep looking. I'm reading the chat real quick.
I'll just start typing.
Looks like a lot.
I'm the only one of the four of us that's a P. And I will tell you, like, here's a perfect example of me. Like, I lived in college on all-nighters. Like, I would never study ahead. I thrived on that. And like today's presentation, like about 4:30, I'm like, I probably got to review my notes, for this. I just roll with it. And my ex-husband is a major J, and that was really, really hard for us. Really hard for us. But yeah, I don't know. Have you guys had experiences in relationships with the opposite type and it's hard to diagnose other people too. You don't want to do that. But you can kind of guess.
I didn't do this test until I was single. So I have no clue what my ex was or anything. We didn't do those. So, but I can see where there would be a challenge. I've tried to recognize it now. If there's someone that's different in the way that they handle things or whatever, like, would I be okay with that? If I got into a relationship, if I got into a marriage, would I be okay with that person doing what they're doing and me not feeling the need to have to change them? Like, that's a big thing for me. I don't want to go into something thinking, oh, I'll change that about them, or I can make them different than what they are, or when we're married, he'll feel differently about doing whatever. Like, I don't think that is a good way to go about things. So I always look at it like, am I willing to accept that? Is that something that I'll be okay with forever? Right. So if they end up changing, hey, that's cool. But
Yeah, I know with my ex, it was complicated because she was a real strong pessimist. Like, it was me. I'm always like, oh, you know what? The glass is half full. And she's like, no, you don't get it. I'm a realist. The glass is half empty, and she's like, I hate that you're like always looking at things in a positive way. You never see things my way. And it was always like, I said, I do see it your way, but I try to focus on like what could be good about this. And she's like, So that was always a big deal, because she would be like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? We're almost out of money. We were starving students. And I'm like, don't worry, good things always happen. We'll find money, and like a week later, I'll find $20 in my jeans. I'm like, I had no idea that was there. I'm like, look, I told you. And she's like, you can't count that. That's just pure luck. And I'm like,
dollar foods at McDonald's, dollar menu.
It's all thinking positive.
Yep. But it is interesting. I think so. So what's your take, Julie, on dating? Because it does show on the little diagram, like who you go best with. Like me as an INFJ goes best with, like, I can't remember, ENF something. I can't remember. I don't know if it's J's or T's. I can't remember. Anyway, but So there are those you fit really good with, and they'll show you the little diagram, and then there's ones that are like, you might want to stay away from that person because you guys totally clash. Do you see that that's an important aspect? Like, is that something we should be looking at if someone has some, is in the red on the letters, theoretically speaking, of course?
Yeah, I sort of. I'm not sure I totally agree with that. So I think what you said earlier, Celeste, is really wise. Like, you just have, so the one thing about this particular personality test is they say you're kind of born with it. Like, this is who you are. We can all work to flex to be better. I mean, probably like Christ was everything, right? Like, he just knew how to be check all the boxes. But so that's our ultimate goal, right? Is to get, if we're not good at one side, get better at it. But in dating, I think if you are accepting and the other person is accepting of you, and there's that understanding of who you really are, I think everything's actually surmountable. I don't subscribe to that there's a perfect type for you. I do think that you, again, if you're really self-aware and you know what your triggers are and you know what your preferences are, you're going to go into a relationship or be in a relationship a lot better to negotiate when those tensions happen, right? So if you're both open to that, I don't think there's a perfect type match. I don't really believe that. There's probably easier ones,
Yeah.
but not perfect ones. So my last relationship was with a person who had the exact same letter type as me, except for he was an introvert. And we were good and bad that way, right? Like, it's nice to have a good balance.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's almost like if you're matched on the little diagram, it is easier. But I think that doesn't mean that if you're at opposite ends on the diagram that you can't work at it and make it work, right?
Yeah,
But it's probably going to take more effort. It's probably going to take more understanding, more willingness to be flexible and let that person be who they are, not trying to change them. But I think it could all work. That's my opinion. But
that's why you got to give it time, because you got to work out you got to figure out those differences. I know my ex and I, we got married pretty fast, like, typical, like, oh yeah, things are great, get married in 6 months and, there you go. And we were young, but it wound up, like, I look back and it was exhausting because I wanted to do certain things. And because she was such a pessimist and such a worrier, and that, I would say, hey, let's buy a house. And that would just freak her out. She didn't want to be part of it. She was stressed out, did leave me out of it. Or she would argue with me, like, we shouldn't buy a house right now. And I'm like, all the ducks are in a row. And then I would just plow through and do it anyway. And then later on, she's like, oh, that was the best thing ever that we did. Right. And like, but I was the guy that had to put up with all the crap and do it anyway when you were against it, and it was like, for everything that we did, it was always the same argument. Like, she was risk averse and, pessimist, and like, this is a bad idea. And that was exhausting after a while. Like, I got done in my 22 years and I was like, oh, I don't ever want to be in a relationship where all, like, logically and emotionally it's the right idea, but the person's fears and pessimistic, being pessimist, they would not budge on it. They would not want to do it. And if I would have followed their plan, we'd still be living in an apartment, for 22 years. Like, we would never have progressed in life. So I think for me, that's exhausting.
Yeah, I think you have to be up for the battle if you're going to go with someone that kind of clashes. So what do you think, Terry?
Yeah, I'm kind of listening to it, and I have like a different take on it. I just think it really just comes down to the personality of the person, because I think we have these traits, but I don't think it's so strong that it's like, oh, don't be with that person or don't be with this person. I think it's just a matter of, like, everyone's agreed with, understanding and coming to find common grounds, but it's kind of fun to learn a little bit about myself. I know a lot of people are really shocked when I say I'm literally half and half with introvert and extrovert, and people are shocked because they just think I'm an extrovert, and I'm not.
No, yeah.
Is it just that little bit of whiskey that pushes you in one side or the other?
Yeah.
So it's more of an extrovert. If she does,
I'm an introvert, but a little sip of this, and man, I'm the life of the party.
she's on the defense, and it helps her go either way.
It's funny because in my polo group, sometimes I'll take my sleeping pill and that's all I need. And it's like party time.
It doesn't put you to sleep. It just like gets y'all like.
Yeah, just leave some apples out all day and I'll drink it and I'm good.
Awesome. It's interesting because like I said, I've been single about a year, and as soon as I hit the single scene, this popped up in the messages quite a bit in the pages or the groups. So I took it early on, and it was interesting as I was interacting with different people, the ones that I felt attracted to or I felt a connection with, they all kind of had that same letter structure and stuff. And they actually had a lot of similarities just in their personality and stuff. And so I think there is definitely something to it. You do probably have an attraction to someone that complements who you are. But again, I don't think you have to stick within those parameters. But
no, and I know, like for myself, I have a very adaptable personality. I think my career choices kind of helped me be very adaptable. And when I travel with friends, if they're just go, I can be on the go. But at the end of the night, I definitely need just some downtime and quiet and just, but I will be okay just kind of giving that to myself. If I have friends that are opposite of that and they just need a little more relaxation and, not as much go time, I can definitely do that too. And I'm just content and happy. It doesn't, I don't know. I think I just have one of those very adaptable personalities. So it's hard at times for me to relate to, other people's, I don't know, numbers or letters or because I adapt.
What do you guys, so I have a couple of questions. What do you think? Well, first of all, like this is just one tool out of a bazillion tools to better understand yourself, right? So this is only 4 aspects of a personality. So you can't take it too far, I don't think.
No,
you can't take it too far. But the other thing too is I've wondered if, I do tend to be attracted to kind of different types, but is that always good? Is that always, is that always healthy? Should I be kind of exploring different things that would be better for me or balance me out? Or I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I tend to have this stream that I stay in, so I really don't know. What about you, Terry?
So I, are you talking about like just in dating in general, or are you talking about just in life in general that you're attracted to like a certain type of personality, or
I guess maybe just in general. I mean, if you're going like by the letter types, right? Like you could do that.
Right.
I mean, like, I don't know. Most of us probably tend toward a certain type, and is there value in being more open-minded? I don't know.
So I have friends, all different walks of life. And I have friends that I never even thought I'd be friends with because I was like, no way, we're not gonna have anything in common. Again, I feel like I'm a very adaptable personality and I can find common ground with anybody. But there are those certain people that I'm just like, those ones have a tendency to be very highly emotional. I cannot deal with high emotion or drama.
Those are ones with personality disorders. That's who I'm attracted to, personality disorders, but they drive me insane. So it's a weird thing. It's like, hey, that person seems exciting. And then I get to know, and I'm like, oh, they're driving me insane. It's just like my ex.
Women.
They're just like my ex. I can't believe I made this dumb boneheaded move again.
You like adrenaline, I guess.
He does.
What was that?
You're into adrenaline, the rush.
Well, yeah. The therapist told me it's because of my job. I have a rescuer personality, so I tend to chase after the drama and rescue, damsels in distress, and so I have to stop doing that.
And
Corey's different from me. Yeah, Corey's totally different from myself because my ex has borderline personality disorder as well, and a whole slew of other things. And I just was like, nope, one and done.
No, not doing
Yeah,
that.
mine was one and done, but I keep bumping into them. And so it's like, once the
Yeah.
red flags hit, it's like, there's a Corey sized hole in the wall I just ran through. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah, you just, yeah, I don't know. It probably is due to your job.
I don't know what it is. Like the initial insides is kind of like the feelings is kind of like, oh wow, exciting. And then you start to get to know them. And you're like, whoa, wait a minute. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry I had to cancel our date because there was this huge crisis and I had to go for work, and then they lose their mind like, oh, so I'm less important than people dying. And it's like, yes.
You're like, there's a bomb at the White House. I have to go take care of this. I'm sorry.
They're like, oh, so you don't care about me.
The
Okay. I see
president of
how
the
it
United
is.
States is more important than I am. Is that what you're saying, Corey?
Yeah.
I don't want to be nerdy, but that is totally true to your personality, Myers-Briggs personality type. So the N, like you're beyond logic a little bit, and the feeling, right? Like you want to rescue. So that's true to your
So
type.
wait, so what are we, Celeste? You said we were, we're feelers.
INFJs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're saying that my approach to it and Corey's approach to it, because Corey is different than Celeste and I, is following that personality trait?
I thought you
Like
were all NFs. Are you not all NFs?
Yeah.
Well,
we're all NF.
Or NS. I don't know what Corey is.
I'm an NF.
He's an ENFJ,
Oh.
INFJ. So the only thing is he's an introvert. I mean, he's an extrovert and we're introverts.
Yeah.
Right.
So again, it's just the way, you meet someone that you think you have no history with, right? So the way you take in information as an N is they look this way, they smell this way, they talk this way, but gosh, there's something else about them. That's the end. And then the way you make decisions about that person is the thinking or feeling. So logic would say, better be careful, or I've had this past experience with crazy women or men. But the feeler would say, oh, but you know what? She needs me, or he needs me, or they're hurting, or,
Yeah.
I'm good at this. I'm a kind person.
I think that's where the feeling part comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think that maybe Corey keeps picking these people with the personality? I don't know how to say this nicely.
Borderline.
Comfort level. It's like, oh, comfort.
Yeah, well, that's the familiarity. Like my therapist
Right.
told me, Corey, for you to change your thought process is that when you meet a woman that you find, has all the qualities, but when you think she's boring, that's the one. Like, that's normal. Like, she's like, for you, Corey, when you think they're boring, they're actually normal women. Like, that's
Oh
what
my
she's trying
gosh.
to say. So like, I had to go like, because I'm like, wow, she's got everything, but it's just not exciting. And she's like, no, that's the one.
Instead of the one that like throws you a backpack and says, let's go to the bank.
Yeah, exactly. Or the one that like keys your car and threatens to get you arrested. You're like, wow,
Yeah.
this is exciting.
She brings a baseball bat to her first date.
Exactly. Wants to jump out of the car at 20 miles an hour because you pissed her off while you were driving and she's opening the door, and you're like, what are you doing? It's like, yeah.
Yeah, her last words are fine.
Fine, I'm getting out.
Yeah, I want to be careful. I'm not like a therapist. So, just applying.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah. So if it rings true, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But that's a possibility, right? The way you think and make decisions.
Yeah, I think mine's too feeling. Like, I think Terry's right. It's like, I'm like, oh, I can help them. Oh, they're struggling in life, and I've got a lot of life experience, and I can coach them, and I can help them, and I can guide them, and like, I was looking at my personality profile. It says like coaches and like teachers and like that kind of thing. And it's like, oh yeah, I guess I do that. Like, oh, I can help them. I can guide them. They just need a little tweaking here and there.
So
Reminds me of that scene, Corey, on on Dodgeball when at the very end when he's eating all that food and he's like sitting there, he's like totally remind me right now of him. I don't know why.
It was my hands.
Yeah, no, it was just the comfort level. Like, you're like, oh, this is comfort food. This is so great. Anyways.
Okay,
I'm
so
probably more the average Joe kind of guy. I feel bad for those guys, so I'd probably go to the gym and help coach them. That'd be me.
Right.
exactly true. I've got a question for you guys. So, that like Julia said, there's lots of different personality types that we can think about and use. One is called Enneagrams or Enneagrams. I did that one. I don't know. I wasn't as impressed with that one, but there's also like the love languages. So I know it's not necessarily like personality driven, but it is in some ways because it's like how you want to be loved. So how do you think those two would connect? I mean, do you think there's a connection between certain love languages and certain Myers-Briggs letters, or what do you think? Julie, what do you think, first of all?
I think for sure there is. So I think first, this is my opinion. I don't know that this is part of Myers-Briggs, but I think you got to know to be in a healthy relationship, you have to know yourself and you have to know the person you're partnering with. And that's, if you understand their type or, whatever their preferences are, then you can better love them and understand their love languages, right? So if somebody is more of a feeler, then you would try and cater to that a little bit more, right? Versus if they were a thinker, you'd probably cater to that. And I know the 5 languages, I don't think there's a direct correlation, but what are they? Acts of service, physical touch, gifts, quality time, and what's the other one?
Words of affirmation.
Affirmation. So, I mean, we could probably spend some time correlating all of that, but to me, it comes down to know your person. Know yourself, know your person, and it's not always about yourself. Like your type is not the best type. What does your person, what sails their boat,
Okay, right. So with love languages, I think for me, it's important to know the other person's, right? Because you want to be able to love them how they want to be loved, or so that they feel loved. Not so much about this is how I want to be loved. And so hey, you better love me this way because this is my love language. I don't think it should go that way. I think it's more of a, I'm going to do this for you type of thing, where it seems like this Myers-Briggs is more about figuring out who you are and maybe what you are compatible with. So are they kind of opposite in that way? Because I feel like love languages is more about the other person and like Myers-Briggs is more about knowing yourself and what would work best for you.
Yeah, so a lot of Myers-Briggs, the first step is know yourself, but the second step is how to work with others. It's really a lot about relationships.
Oh, okay.
So I think the principle, this is personal, you guys chime in, but I think the principles apply to any test. Be self-aware, know what your strengths and weaknesses are, and then, be aware of the other person. I don't feel like they're totally different. I think they can be applied both ways.
What do you think, Corey?
Yeah, I think I was looking at the chart here, but
I know,
yeah,
I'm like, he's totally looking at something.
I'm like, I'm getting my analytical sides coming out of me right now. So, but no, I agree. I think that, I don't know, for me, I go with my feeling, and that's probably what gets me in trouble. I do a lot of praying to ask for like, I do a lot of praying to kind of ask like, okay, guide me, like make sure I make the right choices. Like, because if I'm meeting somebody or getting to know somebody, it's like, I want to do it in the right, clear-minded way and maybe have the Spirit kind of guide me. That's kind of what I've been praying for lately. Cause it's like in the past, it hasn't worked out. I mean, I dated somebody a few years ago that turned out to be a narcissist, like the total opposite, like the borderline. It was like, I went to my therapist and I'm like, I don't understand what's happening. There's these weird triggers. I'm getting triggered, but she's nothing like my ex. She's like super successful and she's got her own contracting business and she makes a lot of money and she's totally an extrovert and like all this stuff. And then my therapist is like, oh, it sounds like you found a narcissist. I was like, so I was going crazy. Like, so I think
I have aspects about them, but one's more poor me and one's more like, I'm going to go and do, right? All about them.
Yeah, one's more like, I'm a doer. Yeah, the other one's like, I'm too afraid to do anything. The other one's like, shoot, risk. I love risk. I'm jumping off a cliff in a parachute. It's like, so it's just totally different. So I don't know. I think that I think that these personality tests are really good. I think that for me, what's working is I think praying and trying to like use that. Cause I don't think I've ever really prayed for guidance while I'm, in the single world, meeting people. Like I've never really prayed for that. So I think for me, that seems to be working. Like things are settling down in my mind, in my world. I'm not so like, oh, I was confused and I don't understand. I don't know what I'm doing. And so I don't know, that's just my personal opinion. So
well, I think that's an important aspect, especially as members of the church, is to make sure that we're following the Spirit, because a lot of people might not be good for us. Now, I don't think, as Troy pointed out in the chat, I don't think if you just sit around and pray that the Lord's going to bring you Mr. or Mrs. Right and just kind of plop them in your lap, right? But I
no,
think prayer is super important to know, to be able to recognize the right
yeah,
person. Or I don't think there's just one, so it's not like the person comes in, but when
no,
a person that comes into your life that can work for you, that you're able to recognize that.
yeah, that was the purpose of my prayer, was to let me recognize, like, give me a prompting. Like if I said, hey, I want to pick a career to go into and I'm going to start searching and looking and investigating, and I want the Spirit to kind of prompt me when I'm going in the right direction, right? And that's kind of what my prayers are about. Like prompt me when I'm heading in the right direction, and then also prompt me when I'm going the danger, like when I'm getting to an area I should be going. So yeah, I don't want that. I don't want the Lord to be like, I'm not going to sit in my living room hoping that Miss Wright knocks on my door and says, hey, the Lord sent me. I just thought I would knock on your door.
Yeah.
He gave me your address.
So how great would that be, though? I mean, all of us would be like so married and so happy if that were the case.
Yeah, but if we get rid of agency,
Yeah.
we lose agency. The Lord's like, maybe Corey needed to be married to a borderline for a while. Teach him some great lessons.
And then date a narcissist. Why not?
Yes, so go clear over here, then go clear over here, and then somewhere in the middle, you'll meet her.
Hey, it's life lessons. You're learning as you go, right?
Exactly.
What about those people that, because I see this a lot on the pages or the groups, and I'm sure Terry can vouch, that they literally do. They're like, I am praying that the Lord brings me the one.
Yeah.
Right person for me, and I am waiting for the one right person for me to come into my life. Like I like when I read that, but they do it a lot. A lot of people go that route.
Yeah, they do.
So what do we say to those people? I mean, it's kind of like just solely relying on one of these tests. Oh, well, my definite perfect match is going to be an ENFP. So if you're not an ENFP, I'm not doing it. So I think we kind of pigeonhole ourselves when we do that. So what are people?
Oh, I was just going to say, so just at the very core of this Myers-Briggs, and I think most personality tests, except for like IQ tests, is that your letter type is your beginning point, and you should be working to develop the rest. So it kind of, to me, that you need to have recognize that you're changing and growing, and there's not going to be a perfect in the box answer. And so that's the danger, I think, of some of this stuff, is that there's only one right answer. There's only one path to follow. There's only one type. And so I think that's a caution to us, right? I mean, that's why we're here on earth, is to learn and grow. And so saying that I am an ENFP is not my final answer. It's just my starting point. And saying that my one person is going to fall from the sky, no, that's, I'm still on this journey, right? So we have to be super careful, I think.
Yeah, I think there's a balance, definitely, that has to go in there somewhere. But a lot of people don't stay balanced. They like the extremes. So it's kind of hard, because it's kind of like, I want to get on some of these posts and be like, you can't be waiting for the one. And they'll, it's almost like some of them are like testifying. I know if I read my scriptures and I pray, the Lord will bring me the right person. And it's like, the right person. I don't know. Like, I feel like at that point, it's kind of like, yeah, he could, but that's not normally how things work. Like, really, you're supposed to be, going and looking, and there's probably several people out there, many that can fit your world.
And you have to be able to trust yourself as well. I mean, we do have free agency for a reason, and we're all here to learn and grow. And that, that's part of it. We can't just sit back and expect things to be handed to us. I mean, I go to work every day because I pay my bills. So if I sat back and didn't go to work every day, my bills wouldn't get paid. That would be a consequence. Well, if you sit back and wait for something to happen, then you're going to suffer that consequence. It's simple. It's I'm mind blowing when I see it.
Yeah.
But
my mind is like, are you here to find someone? Like, they're just like,
right.
I'm just going to live my life. And I understand, like, living your life and making good choices and not getting bogged down in sorrow that you're single. Like, be your best you, live your best life while you're here and doing this. But saying I'm just going to like put blinders on until the Lord pops the person in front of me, I don't know, just gets kind of scary.
I did want to kind of elaborate a little bit on Celeste, what you said earlier about the personality test and the love languages going together. I feel like the personality test for me was a good way for me to understand myself just a little bit deeper when I get into social situations, and certain social situations I'm comfortable in and other ones I'm not so comfortable in, and it was just a good way to understand that. But the love languages, I totally completely agree. It's one of those things to get you to understand, to be able to love your partner at a different level. And understand what your needs are as well, so you can voice them. And as long as there's communication and there's that balance of communication, then you will have those little hiccups, but they're going to be further apart than if you just don't find that common ground where you can properly communicate with each other.
Right. Totally agree.
Awesome.
Totally agree.
I've read several, I don't know if they were like real like clinical people, but they were saying that if you look for someone with your love languages, or your main love languages are the same, maybe other ones kind of vary on where they land, but if you do find someone who's got your same love language, that's kind of like the easy road. It's like, okay, we can love each other exactly the way we want to be loved, and it works. And it's just kind of like these letters with Myers-Briggs. You can go for different letters that might not complement, but it's going to be more work. So my main love language is physical touch. So if I were to marry someone, say their main love language is gifts, it wouldn't be as easy as if we were both physical touch or both gifts, but it's still doable, right? It's important to just know, okay, I need a hug when he gets home. I need to feel like I'm just wrapped up in this person. Whereas maybe when he gets home, I've made some chocolate chip cookies because that's a gift to him and it makes him feel loved. You just have to kind of think, but it doesn't come quite as easily as if we're both the same, right?
Right. So my top one is acts of service, and my next one is gifts. And I always explain the gifts isn't about me receiving, it's about me giving. And I've had to work on that, like not to overgive, because some people are just uncomfortable receiving gifts. Like I'm actually uncomfortable receiving gifts, but I'm totally fine giving. And it's one of those things that's like, well, if I'm uncomfortable receiving, then I need to be able to balance that out a little bit. So I'm able to just, talk about it or look at, a prospective partner or whatever, and just be like, okay, this is what I am, and you are, kind of thing. So there's just this level of understanding. And again, it comes down to communication.
That's everything.
Yes.
Well, and all of these tools, pick a test, right? They're all mediums to help you better communicate. To me, it's like it gives you some language, it gives you some definitions, it gives you some explanations where you may not always have the words to express. So
right.
That's one value of any, not just Myers-Briggs, but all of them. They help you just kind of have some communication tools, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like Terry. I like to do the little things, like little acts of service. So like holding the door open for her, or I like to open the car door, like open her car door, let her get in, and close the door. Like, to some people, they're like, that isn't, who cares, right? But to me, it's like it's the little things. It's like, I'll do the dishes, or hey, I saw that you went ahead and did the dishes, but I'll put them away in the morning because they're in the dishwasher. I'll unload the dishwasher because that could be a pain in the butt job to do. Or, oh, you started doing the laundry, I'll grab the dryer clothes and sit on the couch and fold them. So to me, it's like, and if you don't recognize that, then I'm doing all of this stuff thinking, I'm a good little boy, come pat me on the head, and you're like, oh, you never show me love. And I'm like, what?
Because maybe their love language was like quality time. And so they were hoping
True.
you'll come home and sit on the couch and we'll watch a movie together. And you're over
Which
there
I like to
doing
do.
dishes. And they're like, why is he doing the dishes? I want to do a movie. So it's kind of like that, It's that, I
Yeah,
think it's
it's
important. I
true.
think it's good to know their love language. I don't think that they're going to be like, oh, Corey, stop doing the dishes. Obviously they'll appreciate that, but as long as you're also giving them their love language that makes them feel loved, right? Like me, I don't care really about gifts. If I get a gift, it does make me feel good, but I don't feel loved by gifts. I don't feel loved by what's another one? I don't know. I like words of affirmation. It works for me, but it's not like I need to feel physically loved. Like I need touch, and I need quality time. I need to know that someone is listening to me. I need to talk and communicate and be heard and have them sitting there listening to me and like validating. They don't have to agree, but they need to validate me. Like that's how I feel. That's how I feel loved. If someone's willing to give me that time. So
I hear you, Celeste.
I know you do. Thank you, Corey. That makes me feel so loved. I appreciate that.
Don't you guys think that, like, even if someone doesn't, I mean, sometimes if it's not our natural love language, we're not very good at it. But even like the effort and the intention goes so far, right? So sometimes just knowing that someone's trying or their intention is good, that's almost enough sometimes, I think.
And that goes back to Terry's communication, right? So it's like, I see that you're trying to love me in my way. Maybe communicate just how it needs to be tweaked a little bit or something without the other person becoming offended, because they're learning how to love you the way you would love to be loved, right? So communicate that to them. I think that that's totally okay.
Yeah.
Well, hey guys, I'm guessing there's probably a lot of questions out there in the audience, and normally we start question time about 30 minutes before we end, but I'd like to add a little extra 10-minute time onto the clock and start taking some questions now. If you guys have a question, go ahead and do the raise your hand. You can go down to the reactions, I think. Is it reactions? And not, oh yeah, you can hit raise hand in the reactions. And then raise your hand and ask your question. You can ask the question of Julie or any of us, if you just want to know. So feel free to raise your hand, jump in there. I think it's an interesting topic.
Brian had one. I don't know if he still did. Maybe we answered it.
Yeah, Brian, you still up for that?
I don't know. If he is, he can let us know. But
Yeah, he had his hand up, so
maybe
Let's
we answered it.
see
So.
if he wants to come on and chat with us.
Well, while he's figuring,
There he is.
Hey!
Actually, I really didn't have a question. I just cut my fingers. I was trying to type with my left hand, and maybe I raised my hand by accident. Alt Y instead of Shift Y. But Julie, actually, at one point in time, years ago, or I think about 2 years ago, or at least 1 year ago, Julie was testing a game at her place, and she was going to make a brisket, and I wasn't able to go because I was out of town. Julie, I still regret that. But a question that I could ask is, introvert versus extrovert. Obviously, if somebody needs to talk all the time and somebody needs quiet time, that's going to be a bit of an issue. But I don't really have enough experience with the other three fields to know how they would be complementary versus making things difficult. What do you all think about that?
I think that I'll just go ahead and answer this because the person I'm dating right now is an extrovert and I'm an introvert. So again, it's like I just said to Julie, like there's times where I know he's a go, go, go guy. Like he doesn't like to sit home, whereas I could sit home all day and it doesn't bother me. And so I have to look at that and say, well, if things progress, I'm going to have to be willing to be like, if he's like, hey, let's go and do whatever, like in those moments, I need to be like, okay, that's awesome. And then maybe if there's a time when let's just sit down and let's watch a movie and stay home and do whatever, then he'd have to be willing to kind of compromise as well. I think if you know each other well enough and you know one likes one thing and one likes the opposite, that you just have to kind of come together and realize we're going to have to meet in the middle, and I'm not going to change you and you're not going to try and change me, because I will never be an extrovert. Does not work for me. It gets me overwhelmed sometimes if there's too much going on. So, and he will never be an introvert. Like he needs to get out and do things. And there's probably great times if I'm like, hey, I'm going to stay home and read my book. Why don't you go and do with your friends, right? Like that would work too. He can go be extroverted and I will stay home introverted, and that would work. So, but I think it's communication and accepting each other for who you are, and really understanding, like, maybe there's some introverts out there. They're like, dude, I could never marry an extrovert. And that's okay. Like, you be comfortable with who you are and who you're willing to date and to consider marriage or marrying. So.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you have to be balanced. Like I'm pretty balanced. I mean, I'm an extrovert. My thing came out as an extrovert, but I mean, there's times where I just want to chill at home. Like, I'm like, especially if it's like May the 4th, I'm going to be chilling out, watching some Star Wars, like I'm not going to be out like, I'm going to Comic-Con dressing up, or something like that. But, I might sit on the couch and, enjoy a little Star Wars. But I mean, there's times where I like to enjoy a movie. And I'm a big movie buff. Now, on a side note, now that we're back and everything's open again, I really enjoy going to the movies. So I like movies, but I like going out to the movies, the experience, the smell of the popcorn, the people in the crowd, and I like Virginia in a way that the crowds actually react to the movie. It's really great. Like there's people in the audience that will like, yell out like, no way in the movie. And I kind of love that. It's actually kind of cool. So I guess that's my extrovert saying I want to go out and see a movie in a theater, but sometimes I do like to stay home, get under a blanket, eat some comfort food, watch a movie.
Now, if there's anything you could do to get them to release the next Ghostbusters movie more quickly, I'd appreciate it. I need to go see that.
That's how I feel about the Top Gun movie. I've been waiting for the volleyball scene forever, and it's still not here.
Yeah, but they're all wrinkly now. It's the same crew doing the volleyball scene. They're all wrinkly now.
I'm like 47. They're okay. They're still volleyball. I'm good with it.
It's coming out July 4th, Celeste.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I just looked it up like in June because I wanted to see it too. So
oh my gosh. You
yeah.
know where you'll find me on July 4th.
And I'll tell you, Brian, the brisket wasn't that good, so you didn't miss out there. And back to the Myers-Briggs just really quick. It is really kind of, it's hard to remember all that. So if I'm happy, if someone wants to go through it again, PM me, I'm happy to go through it. So yeah.
Well, no, I was thinking like introvert and extrovert that can cause problems. Other types can be complementary. Others like being judging versus perceiving. I'm wondering what kind of stressors those others would place on a relationship.
Well, yeah. So let me think of my own experience. The second one was sensing or intuition, right? So if I was trying to explain, I was trying to help someone understand something and I'm an intuitor and they're a sensor, it would make sense to them, right? If it wasn't logical. And so there's some tension there. A thinker, feeler, I think we explored that, right? Like who's more deserving of the ticket. And then how do you approach vacation or an assignment or a project? I'm sure you've worked on a group project with somebody who was a planner and someone who wasn't, and it can really stink to be with a person like me that doesn't plan ahead, right? So you can think of a million different scenarios where there's problems, not just in relationships, but in every interaction with other people.
Thank you.
And that was a
Right,
problem
thank
on my
you.
marriage about not planning, because I'm not like I said, I like to be spontaneous, and like my ex was like a super planner, and so she's like, I need to know the details. I need like an itinerary, and I need to like know exactly what minute of the day, and like, you know, when does the boat leave and when does the boat arrive, and like I'm like, I don't know, let's just go figure it out.
That is so
Make
many.
a flight, maybe we won't.
It's the adventure, you know. If we miss the boat, we'll pick another one.
Yep.
How I do it.
Like, it'll all work out. Don't worry.
Or what's the absolute worst for me, Corey, is the spouse who absolutely needs to plan everything, and then as soon as she sees, or I guess he sees something that is of interest, forget the plan. Let's do this.
Yes,
You
yes.
made me
And you're like,
plan.
what the?
We already paid.
See, I'm not even a planner. I'm so bad that I have a hard time picking what time I want to go to a movie. That's how bad I am. Because I'm just like, well, what if I'm doing something at 6 that I don't want to drop at 9? And so I do not like pre-purchasing movie tickets.
Oh yeah, no, I like good seats, so
bad.
that's why I pre-purchase.
Well, so do I. But then when the time, I'm like, dang it, should have gotten a different time.
And now that is something else. My ex used to be want to be in the back row of the theater. Just watch on TV if you're going to be all the way in the back.
Yeah, yeah.
No, the back row is the best row.
She didn't want to be there for that
Well,
reason.
that's because you're making out back there, Celeste. You and your
That's right. The back row in the corner is the best makeout spot in the whole theater. So,
Well, if she was up for a game of tonsil hockey, that would have been a different thing. But
and
she wanted to
even if
watch
I'm
the
not
movie.
making out, I'm still taking the back row, but more toward the center.
I have no words.
I know. Anyway, okay.
I'm there for the popcorn.
All right. I tried to get Scott on. I don't know if he's coming on because he actually has opposite letters to us. Oh, here he is.
Oh, good.
Hey, Scott. We brought you on because Julie wants to chat with you since you're opposite us.
Do we drive you crazy, Scott? People like us?
No, I'm a thinker. I'm enjoying watching all of this.
he's analyzing everything.
He's
He's
gonna
putting in all
analyze.
categories. He's got a database going.
What was your letters again?
INTP.
INTP. Okay, so
Nice.
he's got the N like us, but the rest, well, we have an I in here too. We got a couple.
Yeah, I was gonna say
There's a little bit of mixture there.
I sit with my therapist and I'm trying to analyze her as much as she's analyzing me.
Because his are different because we are INFJ, and so he's got the 2 different letters.
Yeah.
And I'm a P, but you're the only T in the group. So when you just said I analyze, that's a thinker. Like you're thinking through, like that was a thinker word. So, and we're all S, right?
Well,
Yeah.
I'm an F, but you know what? I'm hugely analytical. So that's interesting. Like I analyze everything. In fact, I just bought me a t-shirt that said, I think it says like, give me a second. I've got to stop to overthink, or I can't remember. Anyway, it was a joke.
I think Celeste, I don't think that's the same category because I'm the same
Oh.
way. Like when
Yeah.
it comes to like finances and planning, like I will like do research and I'll be like, hey, should I buy Bitcoin? And maybe I shouldn't buy Bitcoin. And I'll go do a ton of research and crunch the numbers, and I'll do forecasts and all that before I make a choice. But sometimes like the feeling part, like, you know, picking the guy that gets the tickets. Like, I think that's different than making a logical, like well thought out decision.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Because I'm total, like when it comes to like making a choice that has like consequences, so there's just like, this needs to be thought about. Like I will think about it. I'm definitely analytical that way. So.
Now, I'm also very high functioning on the Asperger's spectrum, so I don't know if that has anything to do with it. And that's what my therapist has told me.
Yeah.
I know that that's what was wrong with me my entire life. But
Oh, okay. So Scott, I actually have a son that has Asperger's. So please don't say that's what's wrong with you, because there's nothing wrong with you.
I know, I know.
You just process information differently than those of
Right.
us who don't have Asperger's. Okay.
And I seem to connect with people on the same type of scale. I meet with people and sometimes we just click right away. And a lot of people just, you can tell within a minute that, no, this isn't going anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're probably very black and white. You know, you probably have very strong views on things and probably hard to sway, right? You just have your beliefs and that's fine. And you're probably highly, highly intelligent, which is why you're probably very analytical. I think, okay, I'm on my Asperger's like stand right now, but I think people with Asperger's are like a huge benefit to society, especially right now when our society is so emotionally driven. Everything that's going on is based on emotion. Every way that people vote, every way that they interact with each other, the stinking memes they're throwing up, like it's all about emotion. And people with Asperger's have a great ability to remove the emotion and just go with the facts and go with the the facts and analyze and say, well, this is right and this is wrong. Like this is just how it is, without getting mixed up with the feelings. So
I've had
I
to
tip off.
kind of withdraw this last year and a half because nothing makes sense anymore.
No, it's not going to
Well,
make
everything this last year was all emotion driven.
Yeah.
Like everything was emotion driven. It was hate, it was dislike, it was hate the other team. Your team is stupid. No, your team is stupid. So everything was emotional. So I can see why I got off of news. I couldn't stand watching the news. I just
Yeah.
got away from news. And now I don't miss the news and I don't watch the news anymore. So
I actually don't either. There's somebody in my old ward that's very political, well known for his opinions. And one day during Gospel Doctrine, we were talking about this very subject, about how in his belief, and it's just his belief, that there's been more people being born with Asperger's, and that ability to kind of just see right from wrong and black from white and not get sucked into emotion, because the country's going to need people like that to lead us, because there's so many people like off in la la land just being dragged around by their emotions. And so and I totally agree. Like I could see my son be amazing with politics because he wouldn't get so caught up in all the hype. Would be like, no, that's not a smart choice. Or, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So anyway, I'm curious. I'm going to have him take this test and see if he's your letters. What did you say you were? I'm writing them down.
INTP.
INTP.
All right, I'm going to write it down.
So just one thing that's kind of interesting there. So I think I'm in young women. So I thought, oh, this would be so fun to do in young women's, like help these girls understand themselves. But they say not to really do it before age 14, because you're still not you're still learning about yourself enough. But another thing that I thought was interesting with what Corey was saying is that the most prevalent personality type in corporate America from like the last 30 years is an ESTJ. And there's just a real like driven, logical thinker, planner, and they're seeing a really big shift right now in corporate America, more towards the N's and the F's, more of a coaching, collaborative environment. So to me, that's just a story of like how we need the balance, right? We need the thinkers, and everybody contributes to everything. So we shouldn't get so polarized.
No, I agree. I think that there needs to be a balance, and anytime it gets out of balance, it's like you need that extreme to kind of, tilt you back up again.
It goes back to that principle I was talking about, like the justice versus mercy.
Yeah.
Like when there's too much justice, you need a little more mercy. When there's way too much mercy, got to bring the justice back, and you get that kind of balance, right?
And the thing is that goes with the dating game as well, right? So if you go to, because like Corey, like he is like a magnet for those drama girls. So like he needs to realize he needs to stay more like over here to stay balanced and not get so caught up in all the drama, or the girls that like the drama. So, everything is a balance. And I think if you have a healthy balance, then
What I find interesting is that chart you posted, Celeste, on your compatibility. It shows a lot of the I's work well with the E's.
Yeah. Because as long as you're willing to realize, okay, that person is going to be more outgoing and do more, well, outgoing is not the right word. The person's going to need to be out to feel better, out with people, out doing things, out. And you might need to be in, and just recognize that's okay. Like we can be balanced, him going out, me staying in, or vice versa. As long as we recognize it's okay for them to be them and me to be me, and we love and support each other as is, without being like, you know what, I know you're an extrovert, but I want you to spend every night with me in this house. Like that's not going to work in the long run.
Yeah, I probably need someone that's about 96% extrovert because I'm a 96% introvert.
I'm a high introvert. My number was pretty high.
I think what you just said, Celeste, was so great though. Like we shouldn't expect people to be like me, right? Again, we tend to think that our type's the best type, right? But no, like let Scott be Scott. Scott has so much to offer. But we're not going to draw energy the same way. That's okay.
And that's okay, right? And that's the thing, is that Scott or any of us, like if we have someone trying to change us, like no, like either accept me as is. And I know we're all learning and growing, but in general, like our core, who we are, right? If someone doesn't like us, who we are, as we are right now, like our personality things, we need to just be willing to be like, that's okay. You go, you be you.
Totally.
And I'm going to go find someone who loves me for me. I don't want to have to get into a relationship where I feel like I have to change. I think that that's not the route to take for anybody. And so, yeah, and we need to offer that to our partners as well. I don't need you to change because I accept you as is. And that's what we all need to be looking for, right? Instead of trying to find someone to change us. So
Yeah, ever since I've entered the single world, I've found that I've had hidden hobbies and talents that I didn't know I had before.
that's awesome.
Yeah, that is.
Were you married,
Very
Scott?
I was married for 30 years.
30 years. Wow. Do you have children?
I have five kids.
That is amazing.
Just
I
our
think
marriage kind of unwound, and it just ended up not working.
mine lasted 25. I have found not very many people that have been married longer than I have. So it's crazy.
Darn it, Celeste, you were the champ, but not anymore.
I'm always the oldest and I'm always the longest married, but not this time around.
Hey,
Well,
I'm right behind you.
thanks.
Just saying.
you are right behind me, but you're behind me. Actually, Corey's older than me. Anytime Corey's on, he takes the
Oh
cue.
man,
I forgot,
calling me out.
I forgot about that.
Corey's
Well,
like a
I found out in my personality test that I'm similar to Sean Connery. So I got the Sean
Oh.
Connery thing going tonight.
Oh, you know what? That's a totally different
Thinking.
thing. Everybody should Google like their favorite celebrity. You'll find all the Marvel characters, Myers-Briggs things. That's all over the internet. So look up your favorite person and see what their Myers-Briggs is. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, I bet it is. I wonder if you're attracted to the people like your, favorite actors or whatever actresses, if it's because I wonder, like, would you be compatible on Myers-Briggs? That's interesting.
I don't know.
I don't know. Gives us something to
Oh,
do.
you're like, hey, I think Sean Connery and I would be good friends. We'd hang out, we'd crack jokes, and
You can send him a little note. Hey, I'm Corey. I'm kind of taking your beard. And guess what? We should be big buddies because we're both Myers-Briggs friends. So,
I'm seeing TJ.
all right. Well, thank you. Oh,
If
did you
I
have
like
something?
Wonder Woman?
What was that?
If I like Wonder Woman?
Look her up. I'm sure she's got her profile out there.
Yeah. If it's not just visually if it's something about her personality,
Personality.
check her out. I mean, all guys visually like her. All right. Thanks for coming on, Scott. We appreciate
yeah,
it.
thanks, Scott. Any other questions out there? Chime right in. Oh, we got one.
Oh,
You better have his
Tom.
bean bag.
Sam, come and join us.
You better have his
Awesome,
bean
awesome.
bag up there.
Got his beanbag, and someday I'm gonna get Bassam in the hot seat. You watch.
And
It
here
is
I
gonna
was,
happen one day.
and here
There
I
it
was,
is.
and here I was getting ready to ship one of those beanbags to Terry's house, and she said she doesn't take gifts. So
Oh no.
Oh, snap.
Bummer.
Yeah,
okay. So the question is,
I'm a great receiver.
so the question to Julie is, what if your letters match someone that you're interested in dating? Is that a good thing, or is it better to be different?
Well, no, I don't think you can predict based on letters alone, right? So there's so many more things to get to know about that person. I think it's a good start. I mean, at least you're self-aware about, how they prefer to get energy and how they prefer to make decisions and how they approach the world. But it would be dangerous to make decisions based on those letters. But I think, you can, it's like having a head start.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I think
it's
just
a good thing.
easy.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think you like Bassam, I think that like what I was saying earlier, like my ex and I were so different. Like, there were times where she was an introvert, but she really like wanted to go out and like, paint the town red. And there were times where I'm like, I don't really want to do that right now, and there was like a lot of differences in the optimism and the pessimism. And so I think if you could try to find somebody who thinks like you and has those similar, so that, if there were those basketball tickets, I know that my ex would have been like, what? Why don't you give them to your own children? What's wrong with you? Like, what kind of father are you? It's like, well, those other kids were more needy. It's like, there was always that difference, I think if somebody was more along the lines of my thinking, they'd be like, that is a wonderful idea to give them to some needy children.
Yeah, I think it's a step. You're starting a step ahead, but that doesn't mean you can't go with someone who doesn't have the same letters. And it doesn't
True.
mean that just because you have the same letters that there aren't going to be conflicts that won't work out, right? There might still be
No, that's true.
things that would stop the relationship from progressing. But it does kind of give you, at least you're relating similarly to the way you view
You're
life.
eliminating of all the possibilities of conflict in your marriage, you're eliminating a few.
Well,
Like if there's 100, maybe you start your marriage out with 50.
You start maybe more like 75, but yeah, you limit a little bit more.
I still have to try and understand the letters. I really haven't had any experience with this in the past, but I was just thinking maybe that could be like let's say there's a leadership quality that you have in those letters, and then she had the same, and then there'll be like there might be that polarization in the relationship is what I was thinking. So that's what I was asking, if there were like specific qualities that those letters represent, which may not be ideal to have the same, and so that was my thinking.
Bassam, did you take the test? What is yours?
I did. It says I'm a campaigner, ENFP-A.
ENFP.
That
Well, you're
that's
close
right.
to us.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
What's that?
You're very similar to Corey.
Am
I was
I?
gonna say, because what is
Yeah,
Corey?
yeah, I would give a plane ticket to someone who has to go adopt a kid from somewhere.
I'm
Without think of it.
ENFJ. So I'm J. I judgmental, I guess. I don't know.
So that's the only thing that he's different is he's extroverted, we're introverted.
So I was just about to say, well, he has a P on the end too. We're J's.
No, Corey.
Oh, Corey.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm a J. Yeah, I'm a J.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Bassam, guess what? You
What?
are Terry's perfect match.
Oh, good to know.
I want the beanbag.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
You
be
just
able
gotta
to
match
keep
your
on
love
running.
language now, Bassam. You gotta match your love language now.
So an
Oh, man.
INFJ and an ENFP.
Can you see the blushing on my face? It's
Yeah.
No.
He's like, I am going to the post office and I'm shipping you my beanbag tomorrow.
I
A
show
little
up
bit of
one day for
cologne
work.
sprayed on it. A little bit of cologne sprayed on it, right, Bassam?
My cologne.
Well, I had to put cologne on just coming on the show, I mean, just asking the question, so
He has to feel confident about himself when he comes on the show.
absolutely. Oh, well,
Oh,
thank you.
man.
All right. Thank you, Bassam.
Thank you,
Appreciate your
Bassam.
question.
Thanks.
All right. Gary Phillips, you are up.
Yeah, well, I'll mute myself here then. Oh, it wants me to start video too. So anyways, Celeste, you mentioned something about queens, and I butt heads with drama queens all the time. I'm an ENTP. I'm very logical. I actually chose my energy because that's one thing it said I could be happy. And I'm a huge believer in this. I think it came from the pre-existence, my personality, and I honestly believe that it'll change as long as I'm alive. Unlike a lot of other personality tests that I've done. But I'm just wondering, how, most people can't figure out what their Myers-Briggs is. Is there any good way to tell what someone else's Myers-Briggs is without asking them?
You could probably tell like some things, right? You can probably through questioning, what do you like to do in your spare time? Do they like to go out? Do they like to stay home and sit and read books? There's probably certain things you can figure out just by questioning, or you can just throw it up on one of the Facebook groups and ask, hey, everybody, what's your Myers-Briggs? And then everyone will list it. So if there's someone specific you're looking for, just look for their answer. But what do you think, Julie? What's the best way to kind of do it without asking? Do you have any ideas on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, you can always send them that link too for that 16 personalities, but I would ask, so the 4 questions for each of the types. Do you get energy from outside or in, right? Do you rely on your 5 senses or are you kind of a 6th sense person? You could do the little league question. Are you a thinker or a feeler, right? How would you decide who got the little league tickets? And then the last one is, all right, you have a project to do. When do you start? Do you start the night before or do you start the minute you get that assignment? Those 4 questions are a good indicator of what way people lean.
Yeah. So you just have to kind of ask
makes
questions.
sense.
Yeah. And then at that point, you can at least get a basic outline of maybe what their letters would be and see if you're compatible. But again, even if you're not compatible, you could still probably make it work if you guys are both open to loving each other with your differences and communication and just adding a little extra.
Drama queens, I'm sorry, I talked over you. But
no, you're fine. Go ahead.
As far as these drama queens, is there any personality that they have that I be aware of? As far as, is there any good way from that to tell?
I know they're not an INFJ. That's all I know. Because I do not like drama queens. I can't handle that stuff. I don't know. They're obviously probably more extroverted, maybe. What do you think, Julie?
Yeah, so one thing about this particular personality profile is it does not take into account any sort of diagnoses. So you really have to separate it. It really doesn't address any of that. You can have an introvert narcissist, an extrovert narcissist. You can have it can't really relate. That's a different kind of test, I guess, or assessment.
That would be more of an emotional need or something that would need to be addressed. Yeah.
Just ask Corey. He can give you a long list. It's not our forte tonight.
Yeah, Corey, who are you attracted to? And then you'll know those are the drama queens and you steer clear.
Right.
We could do a whole podcast on that. So
obviously we could probably. What was that, Gary?
I took the DISC,
the
DIE at work. And that one is interesting. It's easy to tell what other people are, but I also found that varies on situation. Like I'm a different person at work than at home, and I'm a different person with family than I am with friends on that one. Whereas the Myers-Briggs, I find it's exactly, I've taken it 25 years apart and with acting. Whereas some of these other ones, the blue, white, red, yellow, or whatever, they all seem to change over time. Whereas this one is the only one that's seen that seems to be consistent.
I think that's kind of like what you had said. Like, I think personality, those basic personality traits come with you. Like that's who you are probably in the pre-existence, right? Like we were us there, right? We're still us now. And so it's probably unchangeable because it's like who we are. It's not a trait that's taught from the society or family or whatever. And it's not something that's brought on by emotional or a mental illness or something like that. So it's more like, or it's not mood related. You know, if I'm happy, I'm going to act one way. If I'm kind of bummed, I'm going to act another. So I think it is. I think you're right. I think it comes with us. It's who we are at the core.
Yeah, I think Julie's right. There's the core personality, and then there's the damage that gets done in life that can affect your emotional personality. Because even in law enforcement, if you work a very stressful job, whether you're working with crimes against children or you're doing undercover work or something, every year you have to go sit with a psychologist and answer like 500 questions. And a lot of those questions are like these personality tests. They say, you know, you witnessed something. What is your feeling on this? A, B, C, or D, and you got to choose what you feel. And I think that that's a totally different thing, is the feeling personality or the reaction personality versus your core, deep down who you are. Because there's times where, like in the law enforcement community, if your assessment comes back and they're like, you are at risk, like you are stressing about the things you are doing, you need to change jobs, like not jobs, but you need to change what you're doing. Stop working crimes against children because it's affecting you. So go work white collar. And so I think that the drama queens come from that realm of like, they're dealing with traumas in their life and it's affecting their personality versus a core root personality. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, one thing just to add, and this was in the comments, Larissa, this is really intuitive. So this test is not, a lot of the tests like DISC, I'm familiar with DISC, and it's more of a psychological type kind of thing. Myers-Briggs is just your preferences. So if you're just being your natural self, what do you prefer? And that's pretty true. I mean, that's as core to your true self as it can be, right? Nobody's telling you what's right or wrong. There's no right or wrong. This is just how, this is who I am. This is my true self. So preferences is the key word with Myers-Briggs.
But we don't want to use the term preference too much on the singles groups because you get people. No, I'm just joking.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Gary, for coming on.
Yeah, is there anybody else that want to chime in? One last chance. We got one more question before we wrap this up. Anybody out there have a question for any of us? I guess they were all answered. How about that?
We've been pretty thorough. I mean, we've covered all angles.
That's right. We're getting good at this. We're getting good at, like, everybody's like, I don't know, I had a lot of questions. And then by the end of the show, like, they were all answers.
Oh, we got a question we have one in the chat from Larissa for Julie.
Okay, you want to read that?
Yeah. Do the matches differ at all, whether the man or woman is a certain combo, or is it interchangeable?
No, it's interchangeable. There's probably some common, and I've got some research I could pull if you want to PM me, but there's some common types probably per gender, but they're interchangeable. Yeah, can go any direction.
Very cool.
That's a good question. Thanks a lot. So any last words of advice for us, Julie? Anything you can think of we missed that you want to make sure you get across to everybody?
No, I think, yeah, I just, again, I just want to say it's another tool. It's not the tool. Try not to be black and white about it. The point is to just understand yourself, look to love others, and just continue to get better. If we can do those things, then we're on the right track.
Amen. I think that's great.
That's awesome. Well, we thank you, Julie, for coming on tonight, being in the hot seat. I hope it wasn't too hot for you, but we call it the hot seat, but it's not the hot seat, but
it's a little toasty sometimes, but not very
sometimes
often.
You can get a little toasty. But
that's only when Terry gets a little annoyed and she comes right at you really hard, but that's the only time.
That's right. It's more like the fun seat, right?
Hey, I don't even get annoyed. It's just a lifestyle experience.
There's sometimes that Terry gets a little annoyed and then it gets a little.
I just have to voice my opinion. It's the E part of me.
That's okay.
Well, we really appreciate Julie, we really appreciate your insight. I learned a lot tonight. I think it was great. And you know what? I think hopefully in the future we can have you back on again if you're up for it. We can do like a round 2, more personality discussions. I think it would be good. That'd be fun.
Yeah,
But
Take the test. We'll get everyone's results and then we'll really dive in.
that's
yeah,
right.
I think it'd
So
be really fun.
everybody take the test that I post and come back next time prepared. And
That's
then
right. 'Cause-
we can
Well,
have.
it's funny because some people jumped off and went took the test.
I
They jumped
know.
back on. They're like, what did I miss?
Like, wait, I got my letters, but what did I miss?
Well,
And-
again, thanks again. And I think this is a great show. And
Thank
for
you.
those out there that are in the podcast, we do a little after show where we kind of hang out, loosen the tie, take off the jacket, and we just kind of hang out and talk and chit chat. So this discussion probably could continue to carry on, but in an open forum. So right now, I think we'll stop, right, Celeste?
yeah. Oh, yes.
Live
you are.
stream and the recording.
I'm trying to find where that's at. Okay. Yes, we're going to stop the recording, maybe.